All right, well, we're here at the Hive after the Hornets lost to the Orlando Magic 122 to 114. I am joined by ESPN 730's greatest employees ever, Justin Thomas and Sheena Quick. Let's just get right into it. We needed this game to make the playoffs, and obviously we had to get this win, and we needed the Pistons to actually lose to the Knicks, which already I was telling people, I don't know if you should put a lot of hope into the Knicks. They're one of the worst teams in the league, and that didn't work. By halftime, we pretty much knew that wasn't going to happen for us. Our playoff hopes were done. But what do we get from tonight's game?
I thought tonight was a vintage Kimba performance. It's almost doesn't count, and that was how it was tonight. He gave you a brilliant performance of 43 points, but the supporting cast hadn't always been the strongest. And tonight he played great. Possibly could be his last, but he put on the show for the fans.
And Sheena, let's just go ahead and jump to you since Justin just brought up the Kemba Walker situation. This could be the last time that we see Kemba Walker in a Hornets jersey, and that's a tough pill for Hornets fans and the fans around the NBA just to take. And we spoke to him after the game, and he said, Justin, you told us that his girlfriend was wiping his eyes, because he doesn't know what he's going to do. What do you think that Kemba should do? Does he come back or does he leave?
You made a good point earlier in our conversation when you talked about him making the All-NBA team and being eligible for that Super Max. I think that that's what it's going to take to keep Kemba Walker here. This is all he knows, but he has to get something back out from everything that he's put into this organization.
And obviously, if he does make that All-NBA team, he will be eligible for the Supermax. But it's like, do you give him that Supermax, and do you max him out at this point? Because a lot of fans are worried that, hey, if we sign this guy to a long-term deal and we max him out either way, he's going to be 35, maybe even 36 by the end of this deal. So is it worth it? Are we paying Kemba Walker for what he'll do in the future, or are we paying Kemba Walker for what he did in the past?
I think tonight was great. And fans probably don't want to hear that, but if they were to win and make the playoffs, he probably would have been able to make All-NBA and get that Super Max. Them losing keeps them at the 5 for 190 range. And I believe that's enough to be able to keep him and have some wiggle room, because if he were able to make All-NBA, you'd be tied up. You're already in a couple of bad contracts as it is. And then maxing Kimba out, you're going to tell him, hey, we're just going to give you this money and no help. And I'm pretty sure he doesn't want that.
Yeah, before we even get into what this team is going to look like next season, Coach Borrego told us after the game that, man, there's 10 or 12 games that if the Hornets would have just took care of business, that we would be sitting comfortable in the playoffs. Like the Knicks, when they came here, we were up 20 points. We lost that game when we went to Chicago for the first time, and they didn't have a win at all. We gave them their first win when the Miami Heat came here. The Atlanta Hawks, the Cavs. Exactly. There's just so many games that if we would have taken care of business, teams that we should have beaten, we'd be in a whole different situation.
I agree with that. Even tonight, you saw they had several chances to break into that huge lead that I'm sorry, I messed it up. That the Magic were able to come up with in the second half, but then almost doesn't count. Like you said before, they get down, they have a chance to make that lead even smaller, tie the game up, turnover.
The good thing that I've seen today was through a lot of communication on Twitter. And a lot of the fans they've come back down to earth. They've realized, they say, hey, Kimba, we want to keep you. We want you to stay. But if you were to leave, we'd understand.
And Coach Borrego also told us after the game, like, this season was not just a complete bust. They improved by 3 games than they did last year. They won 36 last year. They're in 39 now. They swept the Spurs, which they said that he hadn't done about 20, 21 years. They went 2-2 with Boston. They got 2 huge wins against the Toronto Raptors. So would you look at this season as a bust because they didn't make the playoffs for the 3rd straight year, and now we're in a situation with Kemba Walker? Can we actually look forward to the future with these young guys and the things that they were able to do?
I believe you can. There's still some questions on this roster as far as defensive ability, but the one encouraging sign was you look like you have a backup point guard, Devontae Graham. In his second year, Dwayne Bacon looked really well. You can see the G League helped a lot. Borrego mentioned that. And Miles Bridges showed promise. Yeah. So you have some key pieces, and that's not enough, but it's enough to be able to say, hey, we're trying to put some things together here. You see a little promise. We've taken a small step forward. If we keep you here, you can lead us into this next catalyst. So they're going to try to pull all the tricks out the bag. Do I think it'll be enough? Not 100% sure, but they have some selling points.
All right. Well, this is the end of the road for the Charlotte Hornets. They are done. The season is complete. So just some final thoughts, Sheena. We'll start with you.
This is my first season actually covering the Hornets, so I'm learning the team and learning the personnel and things like that. And like Justin said, there is a lot of promise on this team, but the improvement has to be more than 3 games every season. I mean, you got to give them a little bit more than that if you want to keep talent like Kemba Walker in Charlotte.
I would say hope, pray, and wish upon a star, because it's going to be ugly next year if you lose Kemba, and you're going to have to sell a rebuild, and rebuilds in small markets are not sexy. So Borrego laid out a good plan today. He touched on 3 or 4 really good points that I think he'll be able to pitch him, Mike, and Mitch Kupchak. And we're going to see, because tonight was the first time we talked about this actually before we got on camera, that Kemba's in this point where he was emotional after this game because he loves Charlotte, but he's also at the point where I've worked hard. I've been to the playoffs, but the past couple of years, I'm not making it. I can't wait all day. So now it's going to be a money decision. Do I want to stay here? So he has some decisions, but stay tuned. That's all I can say.
And listen, I think it comes down to Mitch Kupchak. This is his first year. We're going to really see what he's able to do next season, and if he's actually going to be able to rebuild this squad, because when it comes down to it, MKG is going to opt back in to come back next year. So is Marvin Williams. Nick Batum is not going anywhere for at least a couple of years. Bismack may come back as well. So at this point, there's a lot of money going out and not a whole lot of money coming in. And as well as you said, Kemba Walker, that's going to be the story of the offseason. It's going to be a really stressful offseason for a lot of Charlotte fans and myself, just to see what they do. So a lot of people obviously want to see Kemba Walker back. He got a standing ovation when he checked out with about, I think it's 17 seconds left. So we all want to see Kemba back in Charlotte. So that's going to do it for the 2019 season here.